everyone, today I'm going to be reviewing The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. This book has become, it seems, incredibly popular really fast, and I think that's probably partially due to the fact of the success of Gone Girl and just Gillian Flynn overall recently. I think people have suddenly read a really good psychological thriller and they're looking for something to read after that. So this book is told from dual perspectives of three women living kind of right outside London, but it's mainly told from the point of view of Rachel. Now she is in her early 30s, and one of the first things we learn about her is that she is a raging alcoholic. She takes the 8:04 train into London every day, and she always has her canned gin and tonics, and we also learn that she's grieving really heavily over her divorce. Her husband has ended it with her and he's now with another woman. Now because she takes obviously the same train at the same time every day, she does sort of see the same people in their homes as she passes by them, and there's one kind of seemingly perfect couple she always sees out on their balcony having coffee together in the morning, and she has nicknamed them Jess and Jason. Don't worry, I won't give anything away, but she does just see something a bit off one day, and after that horrible events begin to occur, and she kind of becomes a really horrible alcoholic version of Nancy Drew and solve what happened. The book is also told a lot from the point of view of the woman who lives on the balcony, who Rachel nicknamed Jess, and it's also told a tiny bit from the point of view of Anna, that is Rachel's ex-husband's Tom's new wife. Now because you guys know I read a lot of psychological thrillers and I hadn't really read a really good one in a while, and this book was so incredibly hyped up, I did try and keep my expectations really low, but I do have to say I ended up really enjoying this book. It hooked me in really quickly, which I always think is necessary with this type of book. But I think the reason I overall really liked this book was just because of the protagonist, Rachel. She's definitely not a very likable person. It's not the kind of situation where you're like, oh, she's like a nice, sweet, fumbling alcoholic who messes up every now and then. She fucks up a lot, and there are a lot of moments in the book where you really dislike her and you can't even fathom why. She has this very nice roommate, someone who lives in the flat with her named Kathy, who lets her live there and kind of deals with her shit. And there are a lot of points throughout the book where I'm just like, I would not have put up with that as long. I guess I'm just not as nice of a person as Kathy. She reminded me a lot of Libby Day from Dark Places. Libby Day, I believe, was also an alcoholic, messed up a lot, definitely that unlikable protagonist, but there's also the element thrown into the book where Rachel blacks out a lot and she can't even remember what she does. So there's also that uncertainty thrown in there. I did think the dual perspectives were done really well. My favorite perspective to read was actually the point of view of the woman from the balcony who she nicknamed Jess. The one perspective I didn't like though was of Anna, Tom's new wife. Her perspective is only in there a few times and I just thought it was unnecessary. Obviously with this type of book you're expecting it to be a thrill ride, you're expecting twists. One thing I wasn't expecting was this book to be so incredibly sad. I mean, not throughout all of it, but there's some moments that really did hit me quite hard, which I wasn't expecting, and that was very nice. In terms of the writing felt pretty similar to the writing of Into the Darkest Corner, if you've read that or you're familiar with it. I wouldn't say the writing was anything to really write home about. It wasn't particularly wonderful. That's not to say it was bad. I'm just saying this isn't literary fiction. I think this is a book where plot is a little bit more important than writing, although the writing is still very good. I'm not saying it's not. But for instance, the very beginning of the book, there's almost a sort of little poem about someone being buried in the ground, and when you find out the significance of that, that was really well done, and it was kind of lyrical and beautiful, and I wish there would have been a little bit more of that throughout the book, but again, maybe it wouldn't have fit with the content. Now twists, and again, I'm not going to say what they are always a really divisive point for psychological thrillers, because if you figure out the twists really early on, for some people that makes it fun to read, and for other people it makes it just not as fun to go through since you already can see what's coming. I personally thought the twists were quite well done, and it wasn't like Jodi Picoult twists, which I hate. Like for instance, Salem Falls, I won't say the ending, but she does that thing where sometimes like not even just the last page, the last few sentences of the book have a twist that I think she expects you to be like, oh my god, that was so wonderful. And you're like, no, that made no sense. Why did you throw that in there? So overall, I did enjoy this. If you're looking for a a good psychological thriller, I would recommend it. I think I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. If there are any other psychological thrillers you would recommend, please let me and everybody else know. I have been asked a lot to do a top psychological thrillers video because you guys know I read a lot of them, but realistically I've only started really reading these a lot since I started booktube. Before that I read a lot more horror, so I want to read quite a few more before I can do really a top favorites video, if that makes sense. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you soon.